say hello to the next generation of superstar at 155 pounds. He is Arman Tsarukyan.
22 years old, first fight in the UFC, opponent a future world champion. Most fighters would have run away from such a challenge. Arman Tsarukyan accepted it without hesitation. On the 20th of April 2019, the MMA world witnessed something incredible. A debutant from a little-known town in the Caucasus fought toe-to-toe with Islam Makhachev, the man everyone called the next Khabib, for 15 minutes. Islam won by decision, but commentators weren't talking about the victory. They were talking about this crazy young Armenian who refused to give up. Who is he? Where did he come from? Why haven't we heard about him before? 5 years, 8 wins, knockouts, submissions, dominant decisions. Arman methodically carved his path through the UFC's elite division. And then, on the 13th of April 2024, Las Vegas, UFC 300, the biggest card in history. Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira, former champion, record holder for most submission wins in UFC history. The man who finished Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson. 3 rounds of absolute hell. Oliveira launched deadly guillotines, triangles, back takes, one after another. Every attempt just millimeters from ending the fight. But Arman didn't break. He defended every submission, escaped every trap, and kept pressing forward. The final bell. 3 judges, split decision, 2 votes for Arman. The young man who lost to a future champion in his debut 5 years ago just defeated a former champion on the biggest card of the year. Now he is the #1 contender in the most competitive UFC division. But Arman Tsarukyan's true story didn't begin in the octagon. Not under the lights of Las Vegas, not in the elite training gyms of America. It began in the small town of Akhalkalaki on the Georgian-Armenian border, in a family that moved thousands of kilometers to Russia's Far East in search of new opportunities. In a boy who trained twice a day from age 8, wrestling by day, hockey by evening. In a teenager who, at 17, had to choose between a hockey dream and reality. This is the story of what happens when talent meets absolute dedication. How a boy from an unknown corner of the Caucasus fought his way to the top of the toughest sport on the planet. And now you will learn exactly how it happened. In the small town of Akhalkalaki, Georgia, near the Armenian border, legends aren't born from privilege or easy circumstances. They're forged through struggle, family sacrifice, and a burning desire to become something greater. This is a place where Armenian families live, work, and dream of better opportunities. While the world was focused on Dagestani dominance in MMA, a boy from this forgotten corner of the Caucasus was quietly building something different. A legacy built not on one fighting tradition, but on the fusion of multiple disciplines and an unshakable belief in his own abilities. The most fascinating thing is that Arman didn't grow up in the MMA capital of the world. He didn't have access to world-class facilities or celebrity coaches from day one. He grew up in a working-class family where his father, Nairi, worked in construction, where every opportunity had to be fought for. And now, Arman might just be the most dangerous contender in the most stacked division in the UFC. Akhalkalaki is not just a geographical location. This is a crossroads of cultures, where Armenian heritage meets Georgian toughness, where the mountains themselves seem designed to create warriors. There are no soft options here, no easy paths. You either become strong, or you get left behind. Picture this. You're just a toddler, and your family makes the most difficult decision of their lives. Your father leaves Georgia for Russia, searching for work, searching for opportunity, searching for a future. When Arman was only 3 years old, the Tsarukyan family moved to Khabarovsk, a city in the Russian Far East, thousands of miles from their homeland. Born the 11th of October 1996, Arman entered a world where toughness wasn't optional. This was a family that understood sacrifice. His father Nairi worked in construction, building projects with his own hands. His mother Anahit Hakobayan raised 3 children, older brother Arthur, Arman, and younger sister Isabella. They didn't have wealth, but they had something more valuable: unity and determination. At 8 years old, Arman discovered ice hockey. In the frozen wasteland of the Russian Far East, hockey wasn't just a sport, it was a way of life. He fell in love with the speed, the physicality, the team spirit. By 12, he was playing for the junior team of Amur Khabarovsk, one of the most prestigious hockey clubs in the region. But Arman wasn't just a hockey player. From 3 to 5 in the afternoon, he was wrestling, learning freestyle techniques, building the grappling foundation that would later make him one of the most dangerous grapplers in the UFC. Then from 6 to 8 in the evening, he was on the ice, pushing his body to limits most kids couldn't imagine. This wasn't normal childhood training. This was obsession. This was a young athlete who understood that talent without work means nothing. While other kids played video games or hung out with friends, Arman was either on the wrestling mat or the ice, every single day. No excuses, no shortcuts. By 17, Arman faced a crossroads that would define his entire life. He had been training with Amer's youth system for years, pouring his heart into hockey, but the harsh reality of professional sports hit him like a freight train. He wasn't going to make the main team. For most teenagers, this would be devastating. Years of work, thousands of hours on the ice, all leading to nothing? But what separated Arman from every other disappointed athlete was his response. Instead of making excuses or trying to force his way into other hockey teams, he looked at himself honestly. He knew his hockey skills weren't at the level they needed to be. He could spend years chasing an impossible dream, or he could pivot to something where his natural gifts gave him a real chance. Arman chose wrestling, but not just wrestling, he expanded into pankration, grappling, and eventually mixed martial arts. He took all those years of hockey conditioning, all that discipline, all that experience competing under pressure, and channeled it into a new dream. But there was another obstacle. His father needed help with the construction business. The family wasn't wealthy. They needed every able-bodied person contributing. So Arman worked construction while training for fights, physical labor during the day, combat training in the evening. This wasn't a vacation between hockey and fighting, this was survival. These years shaped not just a fighter, but a man who understood the value of hard work. Arman didn't grow up in a gym with sports psychologists and nutritionists. He grew up on construction sites, learning that every opportunity must be earned through sweat and sacrifice. Arman started his professional MMA career in September 2015 at just 18 years old. His debut opponent was Shamil Olokhanov at MFP Assault Nights of Spassky 2015. For most fighters, a professional debut is about nerves, about survival, about just getting through it. Arman had different plans. 2 minutes and 47 seconds into the first round, he finished Olokhanov by TKO. Clean, technical, dominant. 3 months later, reality hit hard. December 2015, facing Alexander Belik at MFP Eastern Rubicon. Just 30 seconds into the first round, Belik knocked Arman out cold. A brutal, shocking knockout that could have ended his career before it started. For most 9-year-olds, getting knocked out in front of a crowd would be trauma, a psychological scar that never heals. But Arman's response showed the mentality that would later carry him to the top of the UFC. He didn't make excuses. He didn't quit. He didn't even take a long break to recover his confidence. Instead, Arman went back to training with renewed focus. He studied that knockout, analyzed what went wrong, and got better. Then he went on an absolute tear. 8 straight victories, each one more dominant than the last. Submissions, knockouts, decisions. He was beating everyone in every way possible. In December 2016, he got his revenge. Alexander Belik, the man who knocked him out a year earlier, now faced a completely different fighter. 2 minutes and 51 seconds into the first round, Arman submitted Belik with a guillotine choke. The message was clear: you can knock me down, but I will come back stronger. By 2017, Arman was tearing through Russian and Asian MMA promotions like a force of nature. He fought in South Korea for Road FC, in China for Gods of War, across Russia for various organizations. Every fight was a statement. Every victory brought him closer to his ultimate goal, the UFC. In December 2017, at MFP 214 Governor's Cup, Arman faced Japanese fighter Takanori Sato for the MFP Lightweight Championship. 3 rounds of technical excellence, complete control, unanimous decision, victory. At 21 years old, Arman Tsarukyan was a champion. But he wasn't satisfied. Regional titles meant nothing compared to his real dream. He wanted to test himself against the best fighters on the planet. He wanted the UFC. The victories kept coming. In March 2018, he knocked out Wu Haoshan with a spinning back kick to the body that looked like it came from a video game. In May 2018, he defended his MFP title against Brazilian junior Assunção, simultaneously winning the Kunlun Fight Asian Championship belt. In August 2018, he knocked out Felipe Olivieri with a head kick that sent a message to every lightweight in the world. By late 2018, Arman's record was 13 wins and only that one early knockout loss. 9 of those victories came by finish. He was finishing grown men who had been fighting professionally for years. The UFC couldn't ignore this talent any longer. When the UFC called in early 2019, Arman was ready. He signed a 4-fight contract, standard for prospects, but Arman wasn't thinking like a prospect. He was thinking like a future champion. Then came the news that changed everything. His UFC debut would be on the 20th of April 2019 in St. Petersburg, Russia, at UFC Fight Night Overeem vs. Olenek. His opponent, Islam Makhachev, the undefeated Dagestani destroyer. The man everyone was calling the next Khabib Nurmagomedov, the fighter ranked number 6 in the world. Most fighters would have asked for a different opponent, asked for an easier debut. Arman said yes immediately. This wasn't fear, this was opportunity. A chance to announce himself to the world against one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet. The fight was war. 3 rounds of high-level wrestling exchanges, scrambles that looked like they were happening in fast forward. Arman showed absolutely no fear. He took Islam down, defended Islam's takedowns, scrambled like his life depended on it. For 15 minutes, he gave the future champion everything he could handle. Islam won by unanimous decision, but the story wasn't the result. The story was that a UFC debutant made a future champion work harder than anyone had in years. Commentators were stunned. Fans were on their feet. This wasn't supposed to be competitive. Islam was supposed to dominate. Instead, he got the toughest fight of his career up to that point. Both fighters earned Fight of the Night honors. But more importantly, Arman earned something money can't buy: respect. The MMA world now knew his name. They knew he belonged at the highest level. They knew that in a few years, when he gained more experience, he would be a serious problem for everyone in the division. After the Islam fight, Arman could have made excuses, could have complained about tough matchmaking for a debut. Instead, he went back to work. July 2019, Olivier Aubin-Mercier, unanimous decision victory. A technical, controlled performance that showed Arman could fight smart, not just hard. July 2020, Davi Ramos, unanimous decision victory. Ramos was a dangerous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Arman neutralized every submission threat and controlled the entire fight. January 2021, Matt Frivola, unanimous decision victory. This fight had drama. Arman missed weight and had to forfeit 20% of his purse. He could have been thrown off mentally. Instead, he went out and dominated for 3 rounds. September 2021, the breakout moment. Christos Giagos finished by TKO in 2 minutes and 9 seconds of the first round. This wasn't just a win, this was a statement. Arman was no longer just a tough wrestler. He was developing knockout power. The performance of the night bonus confirmed what everyone watching already knew: a star was being born. 2022 started with fireworks. February 26, Joel Alvarez, a tall, dangerous Spanish striker. Arman took him down and unleashed ground and pound that forced the referee to stop the fight in the second round. Another performance of the night bonus. 2 in a row. The UFC was taking notice. Then came the 25th of June 2022, the fight that would define Arman's career. Mateusz Gamrot, the Polish powerhouse, former KSW champion, one of the best grapplers in the lightweight division. This wasn't just another fight on the prelims. This was a 5-round main event on UFC, on ESPN. For 25 minutes, Arman and Gamrot put on an absolute war. Wrestling battles, striking exchanges, momentum shifts. When the judges announced their decision, unanimous decision for Gamrot, Arman couldn't believe it. Neither could most people watching. 15 of 22 MMA media outlets scored the fight for Arman. This was the kind of loss that reveals character. A controversial decision that could have broken a fighter's spirit. Instead, Arman took it as motivation. Both fighters earned Fight of the Night honors. And Arman proved he could go 5 hard rounds with an elite contender and potentially win. Arman came back in December 2022 with renewed focus. Damir Ismagulov, the undefeated Kazakh fighter, stood in his way. 3 rounds of technical dominance, unanimous decision, victory. Clean, professional, exactly what Arman needed. June 2023, Joaquim Silva. Another finish, another dominant performance. TKO in the 3rd round. Arman was now on a 2-fight winning streak and climbing the rankings. But the fight that changed everything came on the 2nd of December 2023, Austin, Texas. UFC Fight Night main event, Arman Tsarukyan versus Beneil Dariush. Dariush was a legend in the division. Veteran of dozens of UFC fights, winner of 8 straight before this bout, one of the most well-rounded fighters at 155 pounds, this was supposed to be Arman's toughest test since the Gamrot fight. 64 seconds, that's all it took. Arman landed a knee to the head that dropped Dariush, followed with punches, and the referee stopped the fight. First round knockout. Performance of the night bonus. The statement heard around the MMA world. This wasn't the young prospect who debuted against Islam anymore. This was a fully formed title contender who could finish elite fighters in devastating fashion. Commentators immediately started talking about title shots. Arman Tsarukyan had arrived. The 13th of April 2024, UFC 300, the biggest card in UFC history, Las Vegas, Nevada, the world watching. Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira, the former lightweight champion, the man with more submission victories in UFC history than anyone else. The fighter who had finished Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and countless other elite opponents. This was billed as a title eliminator. The winner would face Islam Makhachev for the championship. For Arman, this was everything. A chance to avenge that loss to Islam. A chance to prove he belonged at the very top. The fight was absolute chaos. Oliveira was dangerous everywhere, on the feet, in the clinch, on the ground. His submission attempts came rapid fire, one after another, each one millimeters away from ending the fight. His guillotine chokes, his triangle attempts, his back takes, all the techniques that had finished so many great fighters. But Arman refused to break. Every submission attempt, he defended. Every position Oliveira secured, he escaped. Arman was landing heavy strikes, controlling positions, pressuring relentlessly. The momentum swung back and forth, each round competitive, each exchange dangerous. After 3 rounds of war, the judges were called upon. Split decision. 2 judges scored it for Arman, 1 for Oliveira. Arman Tsarukyan had defeated the most dangerous submission artist in UFC history. The emotions poured out. All those years of grinding, all those fights where people doubted him, all those moments where he could have quit but didn't. It all culminated in this moment. Arman was the #1 contender. He had earned his title shot. Then came the cruelest twist of fate. The 18th of January 2025, UFC 311, Arman was scheduled to face Islam Makhachev in a rematch for the lightweight championship. 6 years after their first fight, they would meet again, this time with the belt on the line. The training camp had gone perfectly. Arman was in the best shape of his life. This was his moment, the chance to prove that the young fighter who pushed Islam to his limit in 2019 had now surpassed him. One day before the fight, disaster struck. While cutting weight, Arman suffered a back injury. The pain was unbearable. The fight was off. For any athlete, pulling out of a title fight is devastating. But for Arman, it was something more. This was the fight he had been preparing for his entire career. The chance to prove himself against the man who beat him. The opportunity to become champion. And it was gone. Critics immediately started questioning, was the injury real? Was Arman scared? Was this an excuse? The speculation was brutal, but anyone who knew Arman's story, who understood his journey, knew the truth. This was a warrior who had never backed down from any challenge. The injury was real, and the disappointment was crushing. Arman didn't wallow in self-pity. He recovered, rehabilitated, and immediately started preparing for his next opportunity. In June 2025, he successfully weighed in as the backup fighter for UFC 317, where Ilia Topuria defended the lightweight title against Charles Oliveira. Arman was ready to step in if either fighter couldn't compete. The dedication was unquestionable. But Arman didn't just focus on MMA. He expanded his grappling resume, competing in pure submission grappling events. In May 2025, he defeated Makhachev Zainukov at Pitt's Submission Series. Later that month, he faced Bellator legend Patrick Pitbull at ADXC 10 Inches Moscow, submitting him with a rear naked choke. In September 2025, he submitted another legend, Benson Henderson, with an arm triangle choke at ACBJJ 18. These victories proved that Arman's grappling wasn't just MMA grappling. He could compete at the highest levels in pure grappling competitions against elite specialists. His submission game was world-class. The 22nd of November 2025, UFC Fight Night 264, Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker, main event. This fight carries enormous stakes. The winner becomes the #1 contender for the lightweight championship. For Arman, this is redemption, a chance to earn back what the injury took from him. Hooker is a dangerous opponent. a veteran of countless wars in the UFC, known for his striking, his toughness, his ability to drag opponents into deep water and drown them. But Arman has faced danger before. He's survived Oliveira's submissions, weathered Gamrot's wrestling, knocked out Dariush. Hooker is just another obstacle on the path to gold. The challenge ahead is clear. Win, and Arman gets another shot at the title. Lose, and the dream becomes that much harder to achieve. But if there's one thing Arman Tsarukyan has proven throughout his career, it's that obstacles only make him stronger. From that 3-year-old boy whose family left Georgia searching for opportunity, to a teenager working construction while training for fights, to a UFC title contender who refused to stay down no matter how many times life knocked him back, Arman Tsarukyan's journey has been defined by resilience, skill, and an unbreakable spirit. His professional record stands at 22 wins and 3 losses, 9 knockouts, 5 submissions, 8 decision victories. Every loss taught him something crucial. The knockout loss in his second pro fight showed him the importance of defense. The decision loss to Islam showed him what elite level looks like. The controversial loss to Gamrot showed him he could compete with anyone. And he did all this while maintaining the humble, respectful demeanor that makes him beloved by fans. He didn't engage in trash talk. He didn't create artificial drama. He just worked, improved, and let his fighting speak for itself. The boy who had to choose between hockey and fighting has become one of the most complete mixed martial artists in the world. Not through natural gifts alone, but through a decade of grinding, learning, evolving. Arman represents something beautiful in combat sports. He's the immigrant kid who made it, the construction worker who became a professional athlete, the underdog who refused to accept that role, the fighter who lost to the future champion and used that as motivation rather than an excuse. There's something deeply symbolic about Arman Tsarukyan's identity. Born in Georgia, raised in Russia, fighting under the Armenian flag, he doesn't see this as conflict, he sees it as richness. "I love Russia," Arman has said. "I like living there. I've lived there all my life. As for the flag, I think the Armenian flag represents me best because I am 100% Armenian. I tell everyone, I am a Russian fighter, but I represent Armenia. I am motivated when I see Armenians in the stands, the flags of Armenia and Russia. At moments like these, I know that no one can defeat me this evening. I will win or die." This isn't just patriotism. This is identity forged through the immigrant experience, carrying the heritage of his ancestors while embracing the country that gave his family opportunity, fighting for everyone who sees their own struggle reflected in his journey. His personal life reflects the same grounded values. Married to his wife Milena since April 2019, father to 2 daughters, family man first, fighter second. The same construction working kid who never forgot where he came from. He dreams of buying a house in the United States, but Russia will always be home. "I prefer Russian people and everyone who lives in Russia," he said, "and the nature that Russia has. Forests, mountains." Even as he chases the American dream of UFC gold, he carries his roots with pride. UFC 300 should have been the highlight of Arman's career. Instead, it came with controversy. While walking to the octagon before the Oliveira fight, Arman appeared to strike a fan. The incident overshadowed what should have been pure celebration of his victory. The Nevada State Athletic Commission didn't take it lightly. They withheld 20% of his fight purse, $31,600 of his $158,000 earnings. Then in June 2024, they fined him an additional $25,000 and banned him from competition for 9 months. The suspension could be reduced to 6 months if he completed an anti-bullying PSA. This was a dark moment, the kind of mistake that defines careers negatively. But Arman didn't make excuses. He accepted responsibility, completed the requirements, and moved forward. Sometimes the measure of a man isn't just his victories, but how he handles his mistakes. The incident didn't define him because his body of work spoke louder. Years of professionalism, respect for opponents, and dedication to the sport outweighed one moment of poor judgment. As November 2025 approaches, Arman Tsarukyan stands at another crossroads. The fight with Dan Hooker is just weeks away. A victory puts him right back in the title picture. A loss makes the journey that much harder. But the stakes go beyond just one fight. Arman is 29 years old, entering his athletic prime. The lightweight division is stacked with killers. Islam Makhachev still holds the belt. Charles Oliveira is still dangerous. New contenders keep emerging. The window for championship glory is open, but it won't stay open forever. Every fight matters. Every performance must be perfect. There's no room for error at this level. But if there's one thing Arman Tsarukyan has proven throughout his entire life, it's that he thrives when the pressure is highest. When his family needed him, he worked construction. When hockey didn't work out, he became a fighter. When he got knocked out in his second pro fight, he went on an 8-fight winning streak. When he lost to Islam, he used it as motivation to become a top contender. When the title shot fell through due to injury, he came back stronger. The mountains of the Caucasus have produced many warriors over the centuries, but few have combined skill, heart, and determination the way Arman has. From that small town on the Georgian-Armenian border to the bright lights of Las Vegas, his journey represents everything beautiful about combat sports. There's the immigrant story, the working-class roots, the family sacrifice. There's the athlete who had to choose between dreams and find his true calling. There's the fighter who lost to the future champion and refused to let that define him. There's the contender who survived the most dangerous submission artist in history. There's the warrior who pulled out of a title fight due to injury and faced brutal speculation but kept moving forward. In a sport obsessed with trash talk and manufactured drama, where fighters try to sell fights with insults and provocations, Arman Tsarukyan lets his fighting do the talking. And right now, it's saying he might be one of the most dangerous fighters in the most competitive division in the sport. In a few weeks, he'll either confirm this by defeating Hooker and earning another title shot, cementing his place among the elite, or face another setback that tests his resolve once more. But if there's one thing Arman Tsarukyan has proven again and again, one constant that runs through his entire story, it's this: betting against him has always been a mistake. He's proven it when people said a UFC debutant couldn't compete with Islam Makhachev. He's proven it when they said he couldn't hang with elite grapplers like Oliveira. He's proven it every time someone wrote him off. Now they're saying Hooker's experience and toughness might be too much. History suggests Arman will find answers again. Time will tell. Thanks for being with us. If you enjoy stories about the best fighters on the planet, their journey to success, and incredible fights, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss new episodes. Many more legends ahead.